Good evening, everybody. I'm Brad Talinsky with Backstory Events. How are you? Welcome to the beautiful Sony Hall in New York City. Tonight's program is going to be live streamed on guitarworld.com, where it will remain forever and always. And as many of you know, I see some familiar faces over here. This is part of a bigger series. And if you are interested in seeing who we got coming up and what we're doing in the future, go to backstoryevents.com. Our next guests have sold 8 million albums, something like 16, 17 million bajillion downloads. Their first album was the fastest selling rock album in SoundScan history. But the good news is they've got something new coming out. It's a new album called Cage to Rattle. Yeah, let's hear it. And to talk about it and give us a little preview is the man himself, Mr. Chris Daughtry.
Hey, how are you? I'm so nervous. So nice and intimate.
I'm going to start out with a real easy question.
All right.
Put us both at ease here. Tell me just a bit about the new record. I mean, Cage to Rattle, where the name came from and what this thing means to you.
Well, the title Cage to Rattle came from a lyric in a song called Death of Me. It was one of the first songs that I wrote for this record back in like 2015. And at the time, I was living in LA and I have a lot of kids. So I was kind of getting back into the swing of things. We've been off the road or away from doing a record for quite a long time at that point. Even then, it was like 2 or 3 years. So I was just like, life in general felt really frustrating and hard. And it probably had something to do with the fact that we were moving a lot and getting resettled, and things just always felt like in chaos mode. And I remember going to the session that day, and I was bitching about everything. like kids are hard, life sucks, everything sucks. And the weather sucked. I was in LA. I'm like, what is this? What is this shit? It's supposed to be like nice and sunny, and it's raining. What is this? And it was like a couple days after David Bowie had passed, and we were talking about that, and we were, a lot of times we go into these writing sessions, you just start shooting the shit back and forth. I can swear, can I? Okay. And
fuck yeah.
And a lot of times that ends up going into the song. So we were talking about that, and he was like, well, why don't we just write about it? And we were talking about David Bowie, and we had to get Under Pressure in there somehow. So he was playing the piano, and I was like, we're all under pressure. And then we started talking about, everything I was just mentioning before, and I just rattled out this line, another day, another battle, we all have a cage to rattle. And I was like, ooh, that's really poetic. I like that. And it was just how I was feeling. And throughout the process of making this record, it wasn't the easiest record to make. It was very different for all of us. It was the first record we had done as a band in a long time. We're working with a new producer, Jakir King, who was excellent. But, like anybody that you have to get used to, they all have their own methods, and we have ours. And everything was just new. And it was just one obstacle after another. And while we were recording Death of Me, I remember hearing that line over and over. I was like, man, that just really feels like the title of this record. And it definitely earned its name. It stuck.
Jakir King is like a really interesting choice for a producer. I mean, this guy's worked with such a wide variety of artists, from Buddy Guy to Tom Waits to Shania Twain. I mean, it's all
Kings
over.
of Leon and Modest Mouse.
Yeah. What drew you to picking him to help you work on this record?
I think a couple things. I live in Nashville now, and I didn't want to have to go, hey,
Nashville in the house.
Thank you very much. Y'all live in Nashville or something? It is a cool place. I didn't want to have to go back to LA to do a record. You know, after getting settled, I was like, we got to find somebody local, and so I can be home at night with my kids. I can still make a record. And we were kicking around names, and his came up, and I was like, well, he's probably too cool for school. He's done a lot of hipster acts, and you know, for lack of better terms, people that are more indie, and who were like, well, let's see if he'll take a meeting with you. And I remember telling him, I was like, hey, you're probably a little too cool for us, but and we kind of were. Well, you know, like a lot of guys like that, or you know, we like to call them music snobs, and you know, they don't really look at a pop rock band like ourselves as someone worth their time. But he was like, well, personally, I think you guys are way cooler than people give you credit for, and I'd like to have an opportunity to show them that. So I was like, wow, you just said all the right things, sir. When do we start? And we didn't start for another few months after that. He was booked, and we were like, we gotta work with him. So it took longer to get into the process than we anticipated. And then once we started, we had already had a tour booked. So we went out on the road for the summer, and we had to get back in the studio and kind of get back in the swing of things, which took a little while. So anyway, the record's finally done and ready to be delivered to your ear holes.
You know, when we were we had a little chat a couple days ago, and you said that you know, you're always looking to explore some new musical avenues. And one thing that I really liked about this record, I mean, the guitars and stuff are there, but there's like a really cool gospel element to some of the songs, like Backbone, which I'm sure all of you guys have heard. Can you tell me a bit of where that came from?
Nothing specific other than the fact that I love those rootsy, those vibes, and I thought that was something that our music could use a little bit of. And you know, I grew up in the South. I grew up around a lot of gospel and Southern rock and things like that. And I just feel like we never really touched on that. And me and the guys had talked about it in the years past, like. Brian, our guitar player, we were talking one day, and he was like, you know, it's so weird. We just never have really tapped into that kind of rootsy Southern gospel thing that I feel like you kind of have in you. And so we had talked about that for a while. So that was kind of in the forefront when we were working on this record, like any chance we could get like a cool chant here. I remember when we were working on Backbone, we had all the guys in the studio. We had this box. We're all stomping and clapping and doing the chant. It was just a lot of fun. And so, yeah, we tried to utilize that as much as possible in songs like Just Found Heaven and Backbone, White Flag. You know, it has that you know, yeah. I love that song. So.
I know you said that it took a minute or two, as it always does in a sort of a new musical setting, to sort of get on the same page as Jacure and Jacure with you guys. You know, was he helpful in bringing that element to the fore, that sort of R&B thing? Yeah,
I mean, the thing about Jacure is he didn't want to dictate what we did. Yeah. He didn't want to. As a matter of fact, there were times where he didn't say a word, and we were just like, I don't know if this is good or not. Like, at some point, you got to chime in, bro. Yeah. And but I think he was like really assessing each player and figuring out what they brought to it, and figuring out when they needed to really show up and when they needed to kind of take a back seat, and really encourage them to be interesting. And I thought that was interesting. I thought that was really cool because, you know, in the past we've had our ways of making records, and it was just kind of like meat and potatoes. You do the same kind of thing, and this is the formula. This is how we're going to build. And he didn't want to do that, and I thought that was really cool. And it doesn't sound like any record we've done before, but at the same time, it feels like us, and it feels like us now.
Well, you're a guy that it seems to me that likes to collaborate, sort of likes to work with other musicians. You've done a lot of really cool co-writing with all sorts of
Yeah.
great people. Rob Thomas, Brent from Shine Down. It's a whole list of people, and there's a lot of co-writes on this record. What do you get out of that? What is that process like?
Knowledge.
Yeah.
I never pretend to have, like, I don't ever want to feel like there's not anything else to learn. I want to always be a sponge. I don't consider myself the best songwriter. I think I can write a song, but I love working with people who have been doing it longer, with people that I aspire to be, like, legends like, Steven Tyler and all these cats out there that, Marty Fredrickson, one of the things that attracted me to him was the fact that he had done a lot of Aerosmith, and I love Aerosmith. And it was so much fun to work with him, and we've been working together for, 3 records now. And I had been working with Scott Stevens a lot on this record prior to bringing him in, and that's when we decided to, like, me, Scott, to team up with Marty, and that's when Backbone was born.
I mean, how does that work, though? It's sort of, interesting
It's
to me.
hit and miss. There's a lot of great collabs that I've done that, I worked with Brian Howes on this record, and it just didn't connect for this record. I worked with a lot of people that sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It's always a song. You always walk out with something, but at the end of the day, it was which songs showcase us now the most and feel like the best version of us now.
Really interesting co-write on this record is you wrote a song with your wife.
I did. Yeah.
It's really, really great song,
Yeah.
As You Are.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah,
Tell me about that.
It's. I've always looked at, like, when you work with your spouse, that's got to be a hard thing, right? When I see people, like, they work with their wives or their husbands or their significant others, and I feel like, oh man, that's got to suck. You're always around each other, and there's no separation, so you probably at each other's throats all the time. And I remember years ago, my wife brought me these lyrics that she had written down, and I think I was a little dismissive about it. I write the songs in this house. I didn't say that, but I might as well have. And I think it kind of put her off for a while. And she wrote poetry as a kid, and it was something that she really loved to do, and I didn't really know that about her. So I didn't realize how deep that may have cut, how dismissive I was. So fast forward to when she brought me these lyrics, I was like, I'm not going to screw this one up. I'm going to really take a gander here and read it and soak it in. And I was in the kitchen and I was reading it, and it hit me, and I started, like, tearing up, and I instantly had the chorus in my head, and I kind of escaped to my office and started writing the song, and I didn't show it to her until I was finished, and she started bawling, and it was a pretty special moment. Yeah.
What I want to know is, in the songwriting credits, was there an argument about whose name went first in this?
No. I didn't even get involved with that. I just said, make it even, 50-50. It's called As You Are. Sorry.
As You Are.
Yes, called As You Are. You'll get to hear it on Friday. Or Thursday at midnight.
I think, you're a great songwriter, but I think even talking about it, the process is like a little abstract. And so I was wondering if maybe you could even just pick up your guitar and walk us through one of the songs and explain just a little bit maybe how the inspiration came to you.
Sure. I'm one of those guitar players that has no idea what he's playing. He just plays. Did I just say he, like in third person?
I can hold on to that.
So, I think one of the most interesting accidental songs was September. And as a matter of fact, there's song from the first record called Breakdown, and the riff is like... something like that. And we were on the Bon Jovi tour, and we were playing that song a lot, and I was warming up before the show, and I didn't have the guitar tuned in the right spot, so I went to play that riff, and it was like, I was like, what? What is that? And I just started going, na, 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 na. And then I figured out the riff later. And then I just started humming this melody. Na, 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 na. And then Josh Steely, our lead guitar player, came over and goes, you should go to the B, man, just go. And we kind of put it on hold for a while. And then he sent me some lyrics while we were on break. And I remember he had something in it, and it had the word September in it. And it just started jogging up all these memories of my childhood and, you know, swimming in the ditch when it rained because that was our swimming pool. Grew up in a very, very small town. You know, we were pretty poor. I didn't realize it at the time. But yeah, it just kind of brought up all these memories and nostalgia, and it's probably one of my favorite songs I've ever written. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for the mic stand. Appreciate it.
It's interesting you talk about sort of growing up, you know, small town, and I know that, you know, in addition to playing, you know, music, also you're an artist. You like to draw. You've had these creative impulses since you were a kid.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you find that hard to express yourself and not get, you know, looks from your friends or get bullied?
You know, it's interesting you asked that. I remember when I realized that I could sing, that it was a hard thing for me to tell my friends that I'd been around my whole life at that point, you know. Just because they didn't know that about me. They knew that the dude that would play with action figures in his room and draw comic books, you know, and, you know, wear ripped up jeans thinking he was the Hulk. And so I remember I was in high school, and I remember telling my friend, you know, that I could sing, and he looked at me like, yeah, okay, bud. And I think I whipped out some Boys to Men on him, and blew his mind. But yeah, I think that was something that I had to reconcile with myself, and I didn't know how to approach that. I was playing football, you know. It was something that people just didn't know about me. And it was all of a sudden like, ta-da, by the way, I can sing, and I'm doing musicals, and I'm the Scarecrow in The Wiz. Come check me out after football practice. You know, it wasn't something but I instantly, I just said screw it, and like, I didn't care. I was confident enough in what I was capable of that I didn't let that change. Thank God, because you know, it would have been very easy for me to kind of keep that to myself and not have the opportunities to cultivate it and really get those first steps in by playing talent shows and playing around, you know, certain classes when people, oh, you found out I could sing there, now they're bringing me into their class, and I'm being put on the spot to play a song, and it was, you know, looking back, it's terrifying, but I'm so grateful for those little moments that forged my path.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are live streaming to Guitar World, and I was just curious.
Hey, everybody at home.
Yeah, hey. And I was just wondering, okay, so you could sing, so you figured out I've got to learn how to play an instrument too.
Yes.
What was that? I mean, where did you learn how to play the guitar?
Well, I was around music my whole life, and I never cared. Like, it was a weird thing. Like, my dad plays guitar, my granddad played guitar and lap steel, and I was around a lot of country music, and it just didn't really appeal to me at the time, and it's something I guess I took for granted. I remember my dad trying to show me some chords at a young age, probably like 10 or 11, and I just was like, okay, this sucks. I'm going back to drawing dudes in tights. Fast forward to junior year in high school, I was really into grunge at the time, really into a band called Live and Soundgarden. I was in algebra class, and there was this dude that was a year ahead of me. His name was Robert Nesbitt, and it was one of those free days. We didn't have a lot to do, and it was like into class. He was sitting over there, I didn't know him at the time, and he was playing. I think he was playing like Sweet Dream, the Marilyn Manson version of Sweet Dreams, or Fell on Black Days from Sound. I can't remember, one of the two. And I was like, oh, that's my jam. So we kind of started bonding, and either that day or soon after, my algebra teacher, Mr. Ron Schultz, I guess he was pretty bored himself and had nothing planned for the day, and said, hey, how about you guys group up in groups of threes and take the terms you learned this week and write a poem or a song, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. And I was like, oh, shit. This is my moment. And so it was me, Robert Nesbitt, and I feel like such an ass right now. There was a girl in the group. I can't remember her name. I'd have to go back in my yearbook. She's probably going to kill me if she's watching this. But anyway, she wrote these lyrics. I didn't know anything about writing songs at the time. I just wanted to sing them. And I was like, hey, what if we made a thing of this and we actually perform this tomorrow, and make a power ballad or something. As a joke.
Gutsy, man.
So I was like, Robert, you can come over to the house later. We got these lyrics, and we'll put it all together. He started playing this finger-picking melody. It was beautiful, and I don't remember what I sang. I know the name of the song was Average, which is really ironic. I don't remember the lyrics at all, but I remember starting to hum out this melody, and he was like, dude, how did I not know this? So first of all, you barely know me anyway, but he was like, you sound just like Tracy Chapman. And it was a huge compliment to me because I love Tracy Chapman. But I think it was more like a combination of Eddie Vedder and Tracy Chapman. It was like my lack of experience and my fear of being loud in front of someone for the first time. I was just like, something like that. It was really mumbly. Anyway, so I performed it in front of my parents that night. I was shaking. And then we went to school the next day, and I was like, Mr. Schultz, check this shit out. I think I actually even said that. And he was like, all right, y'all go ahead and play it. So we played it, and next thing I know, I was playing for every class he had the rest of the day. And I kind of got the itch, and so Robert Nesbitt started showing me some guitar chords, and I just wanted to learn enough so I could write some songs, and I joined his band. He had a covers band that already had 2 singers, so I was the third wheel. I think we were doing Dave Matthews covers or something. It was I can't even remember. It was I think it was a little hodgepodge of everything that was out at the time, but we were in Charlottesville, Virginia, so they were, just blowing up. So, yeah, and I got the itch and, started my own band, practiced in his garage, so I owe a lot to Ron Schultz and Robert Nesbitt.
I mean, I think that's such a cool story, and even to share that, because there is that thing, right, when you're interested in playing music or doing any of the arts, or basically doing anything where you have to make a decision to put yourself out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So just going back to this other thing, you were also drawing comic book art.
Yeah, that was what I wanted to do with my life at that time in high school. I wanted to be a comic book artist. And then I was like, I think I'm going to go to acting school. So I started doing high school productions and stuff like that. And then music came right around that time.
But that is the cool thing about rock and roll and music, right? You may want to draw comics or do whatever you want, but then you have to figure out how to get to Marvel Comics. You have to do all these things. But music, you just open up your garage,
Yeah.
play your guitar, and
I think
get out there and do
I think
it.
one of the things that just turned me off was the fact that I didn't want to sit for hours, on end every day for a job, and I was like, rock and roll is where it's at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do know that you are a bit of a Batman fanatic. You've got
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
So how is Batman like Chris Daughtry?
Well, we both have the same masks. That's about it. That's about it.
Well, I was
His
sort
is bulletproof. I don't think mine.
I was sort of thinking about this. So isn't it like, I mean, basically you're a small town kid, and every night now you get to put on the cape and get on stage.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah,
is
you
it-
know what? It is, yeah. There's no real superpowers behind it, but it certainly feels very heroic in those moments, and it's a very addicting feeling for sure.
Yeah, I mean, but to us mere mortals, it seems like a superpower. You get up there and do your thing, and to be able to sing, I mean,
Well,
it's pretty cool.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to share my superpowers.
So, you're doing, what you were doing. You were, playing in local bands and learning how to play music and being a small town guy. And all of a sudden, you're on American Idol on a television in front of millions and millions of people.
Yes.
How mind-blowing was that? I mean, really.
In the moment, I tried not to let it overwhelm me, so I just really looked at it as an audition for all the record labels that I couldn't get in front of up to this point. This was before YouTube. It was just coming out, but it wasn't a prevalent thing for people to just put their music out there. It was back when it was taboo. You don't ever show your song online because somebody's going to steal it. So there was not a lot of opportunity to get out there. We were playing in small towns, like 20, 30 people, maybe 100 if we were lucky. And I looked at it as, this is my chance. I'm probably not going to make it on the show, but I'm going to at least be louder than everybody else and hopefully make some noise and get some more gigs back home. So at least that can be my day job, even if,
Right.
I don't make a fortune on it. I can at least support myself and my family and play music. Well, it ended up way better than that, obviously. But it was something that I had to get used to for sure.
Yeah. On American Idol and just in general, you're not afraid to pull out like a good cover song.
Yeah, I
here
love
and
covers.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of music, so.
And, I sort of love that. Like, I hear a song I like, and I'm like, I could play that on guitar. I think I'll do that,
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, what was the last song that you actually sat down and learned how to play by another person?
In My Blood from Shawn Mendes. Yeah. Yeah. Every now and then a song comes along that I'm like, damn it, I wish I wrote that. And it's so simple, yet it's so right, and that song stood out to me for sure.
I mean, does that help your creative process by sort of looking at what other people do? Not to
yeah,
take
I think that's what made me want to do music in the first place. Like I mentioned earlier, like bands like Throwing Copper was the record that I would listen to on repeat and just I wanted to do that. I wanted to do that for a living. So yeah, that was my school.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, it's funny. You get the song that you love, and then you look at it, and it's like 3 chords or something, and you're just like,
on repeat.
Where did that magic come from? I was going through a Paul McCartney phase, and all of a sudden I realized all he did was add the 7th chord to that chord. Sorry,
Sometimes
it's
it's all it needs. All it needs.
But you do learn from it.
Yes, absolutely.
It's cool, right? What's the last song that you sat down to write? Do you have a new one that's not even on the record?
Trying to think. The last song I wrote, Is it on this record? I'm not sure it is. I think there was a song, one of the last songs written for this record. Let me try to think. It was written with Mark Stevens and Marty Fredrickson, actually. What was the name of the song?
Well, my question was...
it's called How a Broken Heart is Made. Yeah.
I mean, what inspired that? Do you remember the very last?
Yeah, I remember very clearly.
Yeah.
It's a song that I wrote about my daughter and not wanting her to experience that, and how I can, ways that I can try to prevent that from happening. I don't want you to know how a broken heart is made. One day you might hear it. I wouldn't know how to. I'd have to. I don't know it. I don't know it. I just made that up. I gotta save it for next time.
What do you consider your strength as a songwriter?
I tend to lean more towards melody. I love when the lightning bolt hits and these magical lyrics come out, and it feels like I didn't have to sit there and ponder for hours, and in those moments feel like true gifts to me. But I love working with someone who's like super fast with at least concepts, and I like to kind of go back and forth. But melody is my first, I think, my first strength in songwriting.
Yeah, man.
Lyrics second, yeah.
Being self-conscious is the enemy of art, right? You want to get to it quick.
Absolutely.
And get it out there.
And then you hear songs that are so simple, and you read the lyrics and you go, really? Really? But when they're sung and they sound so beautiful, it sounds so empowering and moving that it doesn't need to be that complicated. And that's what I have to learn. Like, it doesn't have to be some, magical, like, novel. You know what I mean? It can just be something that everyone can relate to, and it doesn't have to be overthought.
Well, when I looked at, when I was sort of reviewing, your work and listening, sort of preparing for this interview, one thing that I was sort of struck by is that you seem to have great powers of empathy. Like, I really feel, these characters, they feel like they're just regular people. It's not, I mean, do you have somebody in mind that you're writing about, a person? Usually,
yeah, I do. It's always coming from a real place. It's always coming from a point of either knowing or experiencing it secondhand, whether it be family members or friends or just seeing something on television that moved me or whatever. Like, I always figure out a way to kind of put myself in that situation and try to come at it as if it was happening to me.
I mean, do you think that that's a bit of what you carry around from growing up in a small town?
Probably so, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, I grew up in a town of 100 people,
Yeah.
One stoplight, everybody knew everybody. So yeah, I mean, I think that small town mentality certainly plays a role.
Yeah. So, in the spirit of your great song, Long Live Rock and Roll, decide for us right now, who is better, Guns N' Roses or Motley Crue?
GNR, man. GNR. For me, all the way. Sorry. Don't throw any tomatoes.
Beatles or the Stones?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Okay. Okay, can I? I'm the one with the microphone here. I will easily get raked over the coals for this. As a kid, I wasn't really exposed to the Beatles, so I wasn't a fan initially. So for me, as a rock band, I always lean more towards the Stones. That was just what I grew up with. If we're specifically talking about songwriting, who's the better songwriter, then I have to go with the Beatles. I mean, the catalog speaks for itself. But as a rock band who stood the test of time, I mean, that's the Rolling Stones.
When When you're talking about this, you have to talk about
They're like 200 years old, and they're still on stage right now. Original lineup. That's pretty badass.
What's the record? What's the Stones record?
What's that?
What's the Stones record for you?
Black was always, Painted Black was always.
I mean, the album, though.
I don't know.
Exile on
I actually
Main Street.
don't know.
That's a correct answer.
Is it? All right.
Pearl Jam or Nirvana, then we're done with this segment.
I personally love Nirvana more. And I feel so guilty saying that because I love Pearl Jam too. But
my answer is Soundgarden, but...
Oh, well. If that was in there, then Soundgarden's always my fave.
So I've got one question, and I want to turn it over to the audience for a little bit to ask you a couple. But I know you're getting ready to go on tour. What can we expect? What's coming up? What's next?
Superpowers. We've put a lot into the set. Now we've got 5 albums to pull from, and we're still working on it as we speak. But it's the most fun we've had in a long time on stage, and the show is we think is the best we've put on. So we can't wait to see everybody out on the road. Yeah. We're just better at our jobs now, after 12 years.
Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to see it. Laura over there is gonna has a microphone. If anybody has a question or two for Chris, she's gonna walk around.
I can barely see from the lights. Hey, how are you? How you guys doing? How are you? What up? Hello.
Okay, here we go.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Kiana. I'm a
Hey,
huge
Kiana,
fan of
how are you?
yours. Oh, I'm doing great. Okay.
Shake it off.
I'm a fan of all of your songs, mostly because it's very empowering to your audience.
Thank you.
A lot of times you talk about being a superhero, and that's what music does. And for me, music has always been a huge part of my life. Now, I was just recently listening to White Flag, and was the one who yelled because it's just being what I've been through, the couple of days I've been going through a lot. And it's kind of, when I hear that song, it has pain in it, but it also talks about triumph. And I want to know what's your story behind that.
You want to really know the answer to that? The answer to the reason behind White Flag is we kind of disappeared for a little while. And I was struggling with that. I was struggling with the idea of relevancy and are we done? And then I was like, no, fuck that. We're not done. We're going to write a song about it, and we're hopefully going to put our best record out yet. So it was really my own pep talk to myself. So hopefully, I hope everybody finds strength in that.
Okay.
Thank you.
We got one more? Coming across.
Hi.
So you talk a lot about your family and religion. So being on the road...
I didn't hear you say...
You talk a lot about your family and religion and how important that is to you. So being on the road is obviously a long time away, and you said you moved to Tennessee. So when all of this is said and done, what do you want to be remembered for? What's your focus here? Obviously music's important, empowering people, but how do you balance life and then career?
I'm still learning. It's a day-to-day struggle. But that's with anything, your job, or if you travel a lot, it's one of those things that it's a decision, and you make it work. How do I balance it? I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't know if I do balance it. But what do I want to be remembered by? I want to be remembered as a good human being that loved, and I want my kids to be good human beings and are accepting of everyone, of all cultures and races and sexuality and all of that. That's what's important to me, and I think that I think that's the answer.
There's a, there's a woman over here who's flashing a phone that has a question. Laura, can you?
Yep, I'm coming over.
Since that was innovative, I have to give her.
Oh,
I have
nice.
To,
Way to go
I have
there.
to give her a few points for
Who
that.
is it?
One more question right over here.
The bedazzled shirt.
Of all the songs you've written over the years, what's your favorite?
Well, you know, September is one that stands out for sure. But is this your answer or my answer? It changes every record. I think right now my new favorite song is "Death of Me." Yeah.
Well, Chris, thanks for joining us and
Thank you
and
for
talking
having
with
me.
us.
Absolutely.
And the guys are going to come out and play some songs for you. I mean, this is
Thank you guys so much.
really a rare treat. These guys don't do this often. This is just for you, but make sure you go out and check out the new record. It's coming out on Friday, right?
Yes.
Cage to Rattle.
Tell your friends and tell them to tell friends, and then they tell their friends, and so forth and so on.
And so forth.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to take a break for a minute or two. The guys are going to set up. They're going to come back and play
Thank you
some
guys so
music for you.
much. Thank you.
Probably in your dressing room, unfortunately. Do you know how to get there? You want to go?
No, let's not do that. Back to your regularly scheduled programming. Everybody, this is LVO. It's the Brian Craddock back here. I am tired. It's been a long day. You ready? You ready? We're gonna play you our first song that we ever put out back in 2006.
I was blown away. What did I say? It all seemed to make sense. You take it away every day, and I can't deal with that. I try to see the good in life. The good things in life are hard to find. I'm blown away, blown away. Can I make this something good? I try to do it right this time around. Let's start over. We try to do it right this time around. It's not over, 'cause the part of me is dead and in the ground. This love is killing me, but you're the only one. It's not over, yeah. Taking all I can take, and I cannot wait. Wasting too much time, being strong, holding on. Can't let it bring us down. My life with you means everything, so I won't give up that easily. I'm blown away, blown away. And we made this something good, yeah. 'Cause it's all misunderstood. Well, I try to do it right this time around. Let's start over. We'll try to do it right this time around. It's not over, 'cause a part of me is dead and in the ground. This love is killing me, but you're the only one. It's not over, yeah, yeah. Let it out, let it out. Don't get caught up in yourself. Let it out, yeah, yeah. Let's start over. Oh, try to do it right this time around. It's not over, 'cause a part of me is dead and in the ground. This love is killing me, but you're the only one. It's not over, yeah. Let's start over, yeah. It's not over, yeah. This love is killing me, but you're the only one. It's not over, yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much. This next song is called Backbone. Off the record, Cage to Rattle, is coming out Friday, July 27th, in case y'all didn't know.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you're hurting deep down, when you're feeling like you're never gonna dig your way out, never gonna dig your way out, keep pushing up the river, keep mining for the silver till you strike gold. Gotta weather the storm, 'cause it can't rain forever. No, I'm telling you, we all fall on hard times, you know. Each day is a hard climb, you know. Some days your body has to carry know, you know, you know, you gotta show a little backbone. These troubles so real. We're all facing temptations and our own fears, year after year, 'cause it can't rain forever, no. Yeah. I'm telling you, we all fall on hard times. You know, each day is a hard climb. You know, some days your body has to carry on, so you gotta show a little backbone. You know, you know, you know, you know, you gotta show a little backbone. You know, you know, yeah, you know, you gotta show a little backbone. Are you strong enough to get back up when the chains hold you to the ground? Yeah, so let's break them down. Yeah, let's break them down. Let's break them down. Oh, I'm telling you, we all fall on hard times. You know, each day is a hard climb. You know, some days your body has to carry on, so you gotta show a little love. We all fall on hard times, yeah. We all fall on hard times, you know. So you gotta show a little backbone.
Thank you so much. We're gonna play one more. Thank you everybody that tuned in at home. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Thank you so much. Our newest
in my heart. Just let the current set it in motion. Then nothing can keep us apart. We're all swimming into the light. I want you by my side, and I'm right here waiting for you. Right here waiting for you. We're all living on borrowed time. I've been holding my breath all night, waiting for you. I'm diving into the deep end, and I'm not scared. I'm not scared. And I'm in way over my head, and I'm not scared. I'm not scared. No, I am midnight. You are an ocean, and I wanna float here in your arms. High as a mountain, deep in devotion. There's nothing wilder than your heart. We're all swimming into the light. I want you by my side, and I'm right here waiting for you. Right here waiting for you. We're all living on borrowed time. I've been holding my breath all night, waiting for you. And now I'm diving into the deep end, and I'm not scared. I'm not scared. And I'm way over my head, and I'm not scared. I'm not scared. No, I'll follow you straight to the bottom. I'm not afraid, hell or high water. I wanna dive into you. I'll follow you straight to the bottom. I'm not afraid, hell or high water. I wanna dive into you. I'm underwater and I'm on fire. by. And now I'm diving into the deep end, and I'm not scared, I'm not scared, and I'm way over my head, and I'm not scared, I'm not scared. Oh, oh, oh. I follow you straight to the bottom, I'm not afraid of high water. I'm gonna dive into you. I follow you straight to the bottom. I'm not afraid of high water. I wanna dive into you.
Thank you guys so much. God bless y'all. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Chris.
Thank you guys.
That was my favorite song off the new record. Thank you. Yeah, man, it's great. Thank you so much. Night, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it. It's a great night. Thank you, guys. Remember.